Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Well, most people probably think you have to be wealthy and retired to have an estate, but if you own anything, no matter how little, you need one. And the reason, if you don't have an estate plan, someone else like Uncle Sam will get your money and your stuff. Matthew Holbrook is a financial planner with Country Financial, and Paul Marjorie is an attorney. It's like the 1-2 punch. You got the attorney and the financial guy. Great to see you.
Excellent to see you.
Let's talk a little bit about this, because I think a lot of people hear the word estate or estate planning and they think, oh, I've got to be really wealthy.
Yeah, palatial house or something like that.
Yes, and to need an estate or for it to really come in handy, I've got to be rich or I've got to be at retirement. So let's talk a little bit about money and the three places that it can go, especially if you pass away or you need health care.
Yeah, so a lot of clients, when they come into my office, they'll have their 401ks or IRAs, and they're happy, they're getting towards retirement, they want to pull that money out, but what they don't understand is if you don't set it up correctly, it's going to get kind of taxed and go to hospitals, things like that. So I say it can go to three places. You can go to the government, the hospital, or your family. Now, nobody's ever said the first two, so everybody wants to go to the family, but they don't understand the way you have your portfolio set up. Well, that's if you need long-term care when you're older, so say you need one of the 5 daily functions of life, so eating, going to the bathroom, showering. If you can't do that and you need long-term care, that's about $270 a day. So if you're on that for, say, 2 years, that's $200,000 that they're going to pull out of all your investments.
And that adds up quickly.
That adds up quickly. So that's for the hospital. For the government, that's things like when your estate passes on. If it's in a taxable account and that money you leave to your kids, well, it has not been taxed. So somebody has to pay tax on that money, and it's going to be the kids.
So is it that healthcare and the government can actually take money from your family that you have saved, or say it's your house or other possessions?
Yeah, so like a hospital, that's what I mean by long-term care. So that's the $270 a day. What that is, that's what you need to drain your accounts before you're going to be eligible for things like Medicaid and to pay for it. But yeah, the government, they want their money and they want their taxes, so that's kind of where they double hit you on that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's true. Paul, talk about from your perspective. So that's a little bit of the financial end. How about you? How do you help people so that their money goes where they intend, which is to their family?
Sure, yeah. Everything that Matt said is entirely true. So what I do is I work with Matt's clients to develop an estate plan. I set up wills and trusts to make sure that we're protecting those assets, and more importantly, we're protecting the family. Now then Matt takes that plan and he's going to use his expertise to figure out what's the best solution, what fits the client's needs, to figure out, how to get that result. So, it's a real team effort how we have to figure out what's the need of the client, what's the need of the family, and then what are the best solutions to put into place to get.
And do you find that there's that misunderstanding that people think they have to be rich in order to need some sort of estate or will?
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody has to have a will. Without one, you have no say about what happens to your assets. If you have children, you have no say about who raises them. The state's going to do that for you. Now, I've never known a person that said, oh, I totally understand, the state knows what's best for me. They've got, my best interest at heart. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's the responsible thing to do. I would argue it's the loving thing to do, because you're providing for your family. You're taking care of their future. So Matt and I give our clients peace of mind that, no matter what happens to you today, tomorrow's going to be okay for your family, and that's why you have to do that.
Now, we've used the word estate and we've used the word will, and we've talked about health care, we've talked about our assets, you talk about who's raising your kids. There are all these kind of different points to it, right?
Yeah, and it's a lot of people kind of cross definitions. So, when you pass away, you have an estate, and basically that's everything that you have at your death. The will is the vehicle that we use to essentially the instructions to the game of how do we go through and distribute your assets, take care of your kids. So you've got to have the planning in place.
I like the word that you used, instructions. So will is like the instructions, and it even includes what you want for your end of life, right? Like, do you want certain methods taken if you become very ill or disabled, all those kinds of things.
And everybody needs, the will is to take care of your family, but everybody also needs, and they forget about this, are the powers of attorney. You need a healthcare power of attorney, a financial power of attorney, because that's going to take care of you. You know, if you get sick, if you're incapacitated, who's making your decisions, who's helping you out.
And even when Paul, he worked with me and my wife, obviously, on our stuff, figuring out the names of those characters within the will and the power of attorney, that was probably the hardest part. I would say Paul makes it pretty easy with everything else, but figuring out those names, I mean, pour some wine, figure it out.
Yeah, hash it out.
Yeah, probably the easiest way.
Yeah, well, and I think that we can't say enough or any more clearly that you don't have to have a lot in order to need these instructions or to have this plan in place. Because whatever you have, you're going to want to direct where it goes.
Yep, and you want it to go to the family. So that's why when I say the government to the hospital, I mean, there's tools that I work with that we set up that we can have more of the money go to your family as opposed to the hospitals and the government. So I work on that part, and then I kick it over to Paul here, and he does his thing, and clients are in a lot better place than when they started.
And is there any age, we talk about retirement, people think of estate planning as it relates to retirement, and especially later in life, but that's something you probably can never do too early.
The earlier the better. I mean, the earlier you work with me, the earlier you work with him. I mean, it's the earlier the better. That's all I can say. So if you have questions, if you don't have these things in place, pick up the phone, send an email, whatever's easiest for you.
Life happens. If
Yep.
50% of people don't have any kind of plan in place. You've got young families with children. You've got older families with adult children, special needs. I mean, it's life happens, and we have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring.
And as life happens, there are changes that happen in life, like divorce, like the death of a spouse,
Sure.
different things like that can make it even more important to not just have it in place, but from time to time probably reevaluate too.
Yep, absolutely. I tell all my clients, every year, take a look at it. It's a good review. Is this still the same decision I would make today that I did then? Is this still the good person that I made a choice for? Is this who I want raising my children? Life changes.
And as your kids age, that person might change, and some of those decisions might change too. So great to reevaluate from time to time. Great to talk to both of you.
Yeah,
Super important about estates and wills and being two different things, but really important to get clarification from the experts. So you can get financial information from Matthew Holbrook with Country Financial. His office is located in Shorewood on Oakland Avenue. His office is 414-332-2137, or you can send him a private email. Sometimes that's easier at matthew.holbrook@countryfinancial.com. And you can reach Paul. His law office is located in Elm Grove on Blue Mound Road. The phone number there is 414-254-4784, or you can go to paul@marjorielaw.com. That's his email address where you can reach him also.
And we know each other, so if you contact one of us,
You bet.
You can work with both.
we can work with
The
both.
1-2 punch.
Yep.
Great to see both of you.
Thank you very
you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.